The war between the Zalari Empire and the Karth Dominion had burned through half the galaxy. Planets were turned to ashes and thousands of species were forced to pick sides. The Zalari, proud beings made of crystal-like skin and glowing eyes, once ruled many systems. But now their fleets were broken, their colonies scattered, and their queen trapped on a frozen moon called SCIFI-HFY. The Battle of SCIFI-HFY had been a disaster. The Karth had jammed communications, destroyed escape routes, and surrounded the royal escort. Queen Arlena of Zalarian, ruler of 1,000 worlds, was forced to hide inside an abandoned mining station with only a few guards left alive. Outside, the icy storm screamed, and enemy patrols searched for any trace of her. Her people believed she was already dead, but fate was not finished with her yet. A human in the wrong place. Far from the warfront, a human exploration ship was charting unknown systems. Humans were still new to galactic space, curious, bold, and often foolish. They called themselves explorers, but everyone else saw them as unpredictable troublemakers. One of those humans was Captain Jason Hale. Jason wasn't a hero. He was a pilot, a wanderer who liked to see what lay beyond the next star. His small ship, the Silver Wind, was old but fast, and he flew it alone. When he picked up a distress beacon from SCIFI-HFY, he almost ignored it. The system was under Karth control, and entering it meant certain danger. But something about the signal felt different. Faint, desperate, and coded in a strange mix of languages. He could tell someone was trapped, someone important. Against all logic, Jason turned his ship toward the icy moon. The surface of SCIFI-HFY was a wasteland of ice and storm. Lightning flickered across the gray sky as the silver wind descended through the clouds. Jason fought the controls, cursing as the wind slammed against his hull. His scanners screamed warnings, plasma fire from enemy drones. The Karth had seen him. "Come on, hold together," he shouted, jerking the ship to the side as red plasma bolts flashed past. He managed to land hard in a valley of frozen rock. The ship's engines died instantly, smoke rising into the cold air. He had crash-landed. Jason grabbed his pulse rifle and survival gear, opened the hatch, and stepped out into the blinding snow. The temperature was below freezing. His breath formed clouds in his helmet. His radio picked up faint static, the same signal, closer now. He followed it through the storm, each step heavy in the snow. The world was silent except for the wind and the hum of distant engines. Then, through the mist, he saw movement. Tall shapes with armor that shimmered blue. Zalari soldiers. 2 were wounded, guarding a figure in a torn white cloak. When the woman turned, Jason froze. Her skin glowed faintly like crystal in moonlight. Her eyes were bright silver. She wasn't human, but she was beautiful in an alien way, regal and cold. Her expression showed surprise, confusion, and a trace of fear. "Identify yourself," she said, her voice sharp and musical, though her translator made it sound calm. "Captain Jason Hale, human civilian," he said quickly. "I picked up your distress signal." The guards raised their weapons, but she raised a hand to stop them.
"A human here?"
she whispered. "This system is death to outsiders." "I noticed," Jason said dryly. "You're the one who sent the signal, right? I can help you reach safety." Before she could answer, a sound cut through the storm. Engines. Karth dropships. They had found them. The rescue? The attack came fast. Red plasma bolts hit the snow around them, sending ice shards flying. Jason dove for cover and fired back, his pulse rifle humming with each shot. The Zalari guards fought beside him, their crystal armor reflecting light like shattered glass. One of them shouted, "Protect the Queen!" and then was struck down. Jason realized who she was. Not just a soldier, not just a survivor. The Queen of the Zalari Empire herself. He didn't stop to think. He moved toward her, pulling her behind a fallen rock and returning fire. "Your Majesty," he said, voice tight. "We need to move now." She hesitated only a moment before nodding. Together they ran across the icy field, ducking behind ruins and broken machinery. Jason's mind raced. He knew the Karth wouldn't stop until she was dead. He led her through a crack in the cliffs and into the tunnels below the surface. The entrance collapsed behind them, sealing them inside. They were safe, for now. The tunnels. The tunnels were dark, filled with the echoes of dripping water and old mining machines. Jason set up a small camp near a broken generator. The light flickered weakly, throwing shadows on the icy walls. Arlena sat silently beside the light, her cloak wrapped around her. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Jason offered her a thermal blanket. "You'll freeze without this." "I do not freeze easily," she replied, but took it anyway. Her voice softened. "You are unusual human. You had no reason to come here." Jason shrugged. "Maybe not. But I couldn't ignore that signal." She looked at him with curiosity. "Humans are strange. You act before you think. Usually works out," he said with a small smile. "Usually?" She almost smiled back, but then looked away. "My people. They will not find me in time. The Karth will send more troops." "Then we'll make sure they don't," Jason said firmly. "I'll get you out." She studied him quietly for a long time. "You risk your life for a queen of another world." "Why?" Jason stared into the flickering light. "Because no one else would." Days of survival. For the next week, they lived in those tunnels. Jason hunted small ice creatures for food and melted snow for water. He fixed broken machines to generate a weak power signal that might call friendly ships. The Queen watched him work, fascinated by his resourcefulness. He taught her how to make fire the human way using flint and sparks. She showed him how Zalari could read the energy patterns in crystal formations to predict the weather. Slowly, the tension between them faded. They became allies. One night, as they sat near the fire, Jason asked, "Why do your people fight the Karth?" "They believe power is survival," she said quietly. "They want control of all life. We resist them. But we are losing. My death would have ended my empire." "Well," Jason said with a grin. "Lucky for your empire I showed up." She looked at him with a faint smile. "Perhaps fate sent you, Jason Hale," he chuckled. "Or maybe I'm just terrible at minding my own business." The rescue fleet in the 8th day, sensors picked up a signal. A Zalari rescue fleet entering orbit. Jason's beacon had worked. Relief washed over Arlena's face. She stood tall again, her regal bearing returning. "You have done more than any could ask, human," she said softly. "My people will reward you greatly." Jason shook his head. "Don't need rewards, just doing what's right." When the rescue team arrived, they surrounded Jason with curious eyes. He was the first human most of them had ever seen. The commander bowed to the Queen. "Your Majesty, we feared you lost." "I was saved by this human," she said firmly. "He is to be treated with honor." Jason saluted awkwardly. "Glad to help. Now, if you don't mind, I'll catch a ride to neutral space." The Queen tilted her head. "You could stay. My court would welcome you." Jason smiled sadly. "Thanks, but I'm not much of a court guy." She stepped closer, her silver eyes meeting his. "Then perhaps one day we will meet again, Captain Hale." He nodded. "Maybe." Moments later, he was gone, back into the stars, his small ship vanishing beyond the light of the Zalari fleet. A legend begins. In the years that followed, stories spread through the galaxy. Tales of a human who had saved the Zalari Queen on SCIFI-Prime. They called him the Ghost Pilot, the stranger of the Ice Moon, the human who vanished. No one knew where he went, but Queen Arlena remembered. Every time she looked at the stars, she thought of the man who had appeared out of nowhere, saved her life, and disappeared without asking for anything. She didn't know it yet, but fate would bring him back into her life. 5 years later, in the most unexpected way. 5 years had passed since the Battle of SCIFI-Prime. 5 long years since Queen Arlena had last seen the strange human who appeared out of the storm, saved her life, and vanished like a shadow among the stars. The rebuilding of an empire under Queen Arlena's rule. The Zalari Empire was reborn. The once broken fleets had been rebuilt with stronger ships, faster drives, and new defensive systems. Trade routes opened again. Peace slowly returned to the core worlds, but the Queen herself had changed. The cheerful, curious ruler from before the war had become calmer, wiser, and quieter. Her decisions were sharp, her gaze thoughtful, and her heart lonely. Every night, she stood on the balcony of her crystal palace, watching the twin suns set behind the towers of Zalarian Prime. The golden light reflected across the city, turning the crystal buildings into rivers of color. To her people, she was a symbol of strength and beauty, but inside she often thought of the human named Jason Hale. He had vanished right after her rescue. Her intelligence network had searched through dozens of systems, scanning human colonies, mercenary logs, and pilot registries. Nothing. It was as if he had disappeared completely, and yet, sometimes when she looked up at the stars, she thought she could feel him out there, alive. Rumors of the ghost. Pilot across the galaxy, whispers grew. Merchants told stories of a human pilot who appeared from nowhere, saving convoys from pirates and helping stranded ships. He never stayed long, never accepted payment. Some called him the Ghost of Salath. Others said he was a legend. Arlena pretended she didn't care about such stories. But in her private chambers, she read every report personally. Each time, her heart hoped and broke when it wasn't him. Still, she ruled her empire with strength. The council admired her wisdom. The people loved her fairness. But the queen's closest advisor, Minister Vareth, often saw the sadness in her eyes. "You think of the human again, don't you?" Vareth asked one night, standing beside her balcony. She didn't answer right away. "He was different," she finally said. "He did not see me as a queen. He saw me as a person. Few ever do." Vareth bowed his head. "If he still lives, perhaps fate will cross your paths again." Arlena smiled faintly. "Fate is cruel, Vareth. It gives, and it takes." Peace that felt like silence. Years of rebuilding brought prosperity. But the galaxy was never truly at peace. Reports came from border systems. Old Karth Dominion ships sighted again, raiding outposts, testing defenses. Arlena feared the Karth were not gone, merely waiting. Still, the council believed the danger was over. They urged her to focus on trade, not war. "Our fleets are strong. The Dominion is shattered," said one of her generals. "Let us enjoy peace." But Arlena couldn't rest easy. She had seen the Karth's cruelty. They would return. She walked through the Hall of Memories, where a great crystal statue of Jason Hale stood beside the names of heroes who died for the Empire. He wasn't Silari, yet she had ordered his statue built, a reminder that courage came in many forms. She placed a hand on the base of the statue and whispered, "Where are you, Jason Hale?" Her voice echoed softly through the hall. No answer came. The stranger in the throne room. The next morning, the palace was alive with sound. Council members gathered in the throne room to discuss new border reports. The great crystal doors opened and Queen Arlena entered, her long cloak trailing behind her. The guards saluted. The council bowed. Minister Vareth stood beside her, reading from a datapad. "There are small disturbances in the outer rim. Raiders, perhaps Karth survivors. Keep watching them," Arlena said. "Do not underestimate ghosts." Then, the doors at the end of the hall opened again. At first, no one paid attention. The guards moved to stop whoever dared to enter without permission, but then they froze. A tall figure in worn-out armor walked slowly down the red carpet toward the throne. Every eye turned to him. His armor was scratched, his face rough from years of travel. His dark hair was longer now, streaked with silver. But his eyes, those calm, steady eyes, were the same. Queen Arlena rose slowly from her throne. Her heart stopped. It was Jason Hale. The hall fell silent. The guards lifted their weapons, unsure. Ministers whispered in confusion, but Arlena said nothing. She just stared. Jason walked forward until he stood before her throne. He didn't kneel like most aliens did before the Queen. He simply bowed his head slightly, respectful but equal. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice deeper but still calm. "It's been a while." For a moment she couldn't speak. It felt as if 5 years had melted into a heartbeat. "Jason Hale," she whispered. "I thought you were dead." He gave a small, tired smile. "Not yet, though I've tried hard enough." The shocked court, the council erupted in whispers. Is that truly the human? How did he get past security? He could be an assassin. Guards stepped forward, weapons ready. Weapons. Jason raised his hand slowly. "Easy there. I come in peace. I just need to speak to the Queen." Arlena's voice rang through the hall. "Stand down," Everyone froze. The guards lowered their weapons. She looked directly into Jason's eyes. "Speak then." Jason nodded. "The Karth Dominion isn't dead. They're rebuilding. And they're preparing something big. A weapon, maybe worse. I escaped from one of their hidden colonies to bring you this." He opened a small holographic device. A map appeared above his hand, a sector in the outer rim marked in red. Energy readings flashed across the display, showing massive construction deep inside a nebula. Arlena's eyes widened. "This is near our border." "Exactly," Jason said. "They're planning to strike again. Old trust, new doubts," the council argued loudly. "Why should we believe him?" shouted one. "He's human. He could be lying," said another. But Arlena remained calm. "Enough. I will hear him fully." Jason took a breath. "After SciFi-Prime, I tried to disappear. I didn't belong in anyone's war. But the Karth found me. They captured my ship, sent me to a labor colony in the Outer Rim. I escaped months ago, and I've been tracking their movements since." He looked around the room, meeting every suspicious eye. "I didn't come here to start trouble. I came here because if that weapon goes online, millions will die, including your people." Arlena studied him quietly. There was no lie in his voice. No fear either. Only the same quiet determination she remembered from SciFi-Prime. Her heart knew before her mind did. She trusted him. "You risked your life to warn us," she said softly. "You could have gone anywhere. Why come to me?" Jason gave a small, tired laugh. "Because last time I didn't, you almost died." Private meeting. After dismissing the council, Arlena invited Jason to a private chamber, a quiet garden beneath a glass dome filled with glowing plants. The guards stayed outside. They walked, together among the soft lights, silence stretching between them. Finally, she said, 5 years. You vanished without a word." "I wasn't exactly free to send letters," he said dryly. "The Karth kept me busy." Her voice softened. "I looked for you." He turned to her, surprised. "You did?" "Yes, I sent ships, agents. I hoped to find you alive." She hesitated. "You mattered to me, Jason Hale." Jason looked away, unsure what to say. "You were a queen. You had an empire to rebuild. I was just a pilot. You were the one who reminded me what courage looks like," she said, "and that even the smallest life can change the fate of worlds." For a long moment they stood there silent, the light from the plants reflected in their eyes, crystal and human. Finally, Jason broke the silence. "We don't have much time. The Karth weapon will be operational soon. If we move fast, we can stop them before it's too late." Arlena nodded slowly. "Then we shall prepare. You will help us plan this mission." He blinked. "You're trusting me? Just like that?" She smiled faintly. "I trusted you with my life once. Why not again?" A storm on the horizon as Jason left the garden, Minister Vareth met him outside with a suspicious look. "You should not have come back, human. The Queen is too kind. Many in this court do not trust you." Jason met his gaze calmly. "They don't have to trust me. They just have to believe the data." Vareth frowned. "If you are lying, then you'll never see me again," Jason said simply, walking away. Inside the garden, Arlena watched him go. A strange feeling stirred in her, fear and hope mixed together. She didn't know if this man had returned to save her again, or to pull her into another war. But one thing was certain. The universe was moving again. The peace they had built was fragile, and something dark was coming from the stars. That night, alone in her chamber, Arlena stood before her window once more. The stars shone brightly above the city. "He returned," she whispered to herself. "After 5 years. He returned." The news spread fast through the Zalari Empire. The lost human who once saved their queen had returned. To the common people, it sounded like a legend reborn, but inside the royal palace, not everyone was celebrating. Some saw Jason Hale as a savior. Others whispered that he was a spy sent to destroy them from within. Queen Arlena knew that trust was dangerous in politics. But her heart told her one truth. This man had never lied to her before. The War Council. The Great War Council chamber shimmered with light. Holograms of star maps floated above a crystal table, showing hundreds of systems connected by glowing lines. Red markers flashed near the outer rim, the location Jason had brought to them. He stood beside the Queen, his armor still scratched and his eyes tired but focused. Around the table sat generals, admirals, and advisors, all proud Zilari leaders with bright, glass-like skin and glowing eyes. According to Jason's data, Arlena said, her voice calm, the Karth Dominion is constructing a massive energy weapon inside this nebula. Jason zoomed in on the hologram. This region is rich in dark energy. If they finish their weapon, it could fire a focused beam strong enough to vaporize entire fleets, maybe even planets. A murmur went around the table. One general slammed his hand down. Impossible. The Karth are scattered. They don't have the power for such a thing. Jason turned to him. They do now, I saw it. They're using captured scientists, slaves, and stolen Zilari tech. They're close, maybe a few months away from finishing. Another council member leaned forward. And we're supposed to take your word for this? You're human. How do we know you didn't bring this to trick us? Jason didn't flinch. You don't. But if I wanted to hurt you, I'd have given these coordinates to someone else. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Arlena said quietly, I believe him. The generals exchanged uneasy glances, but they didn't argue. The Queen's word was law. A dangerous plan. Jason pointed to the red zone. If we strike now before the weapon's complete, we can destroy it. But we can't send a fleet, too visible. We need a small, fast team to infiltrate the station and plant charges inside the reactor. That's suicide, muttered one of the admirals. Jason gave a thin smile. Not if we do it right. He looked at Arlena. You'll need someone who knows their systems. Someone who's been inside. You mean you, she said. I mean me, he replied. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You were their prisoner for years. You know their layout? Every inch of it, Jason said. And I know their codes, their shifts, their weak points. I can get a small team in and out before they even know we're there. The council exploded in protests. Outrageous. He's human. We can't risk the Queen's safety. But Arlena raised a hand. I am going. Every voice went silent. Jason looked at her in shock. You can't. You're the ruler of an empire. She smiled faintly. And that empire exists because of you, Jason Hale. You once risked your life for me. Now I will stand beside you. He tried to argue, but her eyes stopped him. They were calm, glowing with strength. He sighed, shaking his head. You never listen, do you? Not when I'm right, she replied softly. Preparing for the mission over the next few days, the palace buzzed with secret preparations. A special strike team of 12 elite Zilari soldiers was chosen. Their armor was dark silver, designed for stealth. They trained in silence under Jason's guidance. The soldiers were uncertain about taking orders from a human at first, but that changed quickly. Jason moved like someone who had lived through 100 battles. He taught them human tactics in how to fight unpredictably, how to use cover, how to think beyond protocol. Your enemies won't care about honor, he told them. They'll care about survival, so fight smart. Even the proud Zilari warriors began to respect him. Meanwhile, Arlena studied the maps and practiced with her own armor. Light, royal blue with a symbol of the twin suns. She wasn't going as a queen now, but as a soldier. Jason found her one evening in the palace garden, testing her plasma blade. The air shimmered around her as she struck at a practice drone, cutting it in half with graceful precision. Not bad, Jason said, walking up with a grin. You'll make the Karth nervous. She turned, smiling. And you? Are you nervous? Always, he said honestly. Keeps me alive. They stood for a moment, looking at each other in the soft light. It felt like the tunnels of SCIFI-Prime all over again. Two people from different worlds, standing together against the darkness. Departure. The strike ship Valor's Edge launched quietly at dawn, slipping into space without ceremony. Only a handful of people knew of the mission. If it failed, the Empire could deny it ever happened. Jason sat in the cockpit beside the pilot, watching the stars blur as they entered hyperspace. Arlena stood behind him, her hand resting on the back of his chair. "Feels strange being on a human ship again," Jason said. "It feels like destiny," she replied. He smiled faintly. "You really believe in destiny, huh?" "I believe in choices," she said softly, "and the courage to make them." He looked at her and nodded. "Then let's make one hell of a choice." The Valor's Edge dropped out of hyperspace near the nebula, a swirling storm of blue and red gas. Deep within, scanners detected faint energy spikes. The Karth base was hidden inside, invisible to most sensors. Jason stared at the readings. That's it. The heart of the void. Infiltration they approached under stealth fields, engines silent. Jason guided them through debris and asteroid clusters until the massive structure appeared ahead. A dark station the size of a small moon, surrounded by defense satellites. "That's huge," whispered one soldier. "Yeah," Jason said, "and it's not finished. We're lucky." They landed on a maintenance dock and slipped inside through the air vents. The corridors were dark, humming with energy. Karth soldiers, reptilian beings with spiked armor, moved in patrols unaware of the intruders creeping through their base. Jason led the way, his rifle ready. He moved like a ghost, motioning for the others to follow. Arlena stayed close, her glowing eyes dimmed by a stealth visor. Every sound echoed, boots against metal, the hiss of vents, the distant thrum of engines. When they reached the reactor chamber, Jason stopped. "This is it. Once we plant the charges, we have 15 minutes before it blows." The Zalari soldiers began setting the explosives. Jason checked his timer. Everything was going perfectly. Too perfectly. The betrayal, suddenly. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the corridor. The hum of the reactor turned into a roar. Jason spun around. "No, someone tipped them off." Doors slammed shut. Karth soldiers poured in from both sides, weapons blazing. Energy blasts filled the air. The strike team returned fire, taking cover behind metal crates. "Fall back," Jason shouted. "Get to the exit." Arlena fought beside him, her plasma blade slicing through attackers. The sight of the alien queen fighting like a warrior stunned even the Karth soldiers. Jason threw a grenade, blasting a hole through the wall. "Move." The team ran through smoke and flames, leaving a trail of fire behind them. 2 soldiers fell, struck by enemy fire, but the rest made it to the secondary corridor. As they sealed the door behind them, Arlena turned to Jason. "How did they know?" He clenched his jaw. "Someone on our side leaked the mission." Her expression darkened. "A traitor in my court. They didn't have time to discuss it." The reactor timer was still ticking. "Come on," Jason said. "We finish what we started." Fire and fury. They reached the last junction where the main power conduits met. Jason armed the detonator, setting the final charge. Then a deep rumbling voice echoed from the shadows. "So the queen returns to die with her pet human." A huge Karth warlord stepped forward, armor black as night, claws dripping with energy. Jason recognized him instantly. "Commander Varric," he said grimly. "Didn't think you'd still be breathing." Varric sneered. "You escaped my mines once, human. You won't again." The Karth raised his plasma cannon, firing. Jason shoved Arlena aside and took the hit on his armor. He grunted in pain but kept moving, rolling to cover and firing back. The team engaged the warlord, but his armor deflected most shots. Arlena dashed forward, blade glowing bright, striking his weapon arm. "Sparks flew," Varric roared, slamming her to the ground. Jason jumped onto the warlord's back, firing point blank into the armor seams. The creature screamed and staggered, then fell with a crash. Jason pulled Arlena up, smoke rising around them. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, breathless. "You're hurt." "Nothing new," he said with a weak grin. The timer beeped loudly. 1 minute left. They sprinted through the corridor as explosions shook the base. Fire burst through the walls, alarms screaming. The team raced to the docking bay and jumped aboard their ship, just as the final charge detonated. The Valor's Edge blasted out of the nebula. Behind them, the massive station exploded, a fiery storm lighting up space. Aftermath from orbit, the explosion looked like a new star being born. The Karth weapon was gone. The mission was a success. Jason sat in the medical bay, his armor scorched, his shoulder bleeding. Arlena entered quietly, watching him with soft eyes. "You did it," she said. "We did it," he corrected. She smiled faintly. "You always find a way to make things explode." He laughed weakly. "Old habit." For a while neither spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Then Arlena said quietly, "Someone betrayed us. We must find out who." Jason nodded. "And when we do, we'll make sure they never try it again." He looked at her, his voice softer. "You shouldn't have come with me." The Valor's Edge drifted through space, engines cooling after the massive detonation that destroyed the Karth weapon. The glowing nebula behind them had swallowed the explosion, leaving only scattered debris to mark their triumph. Inside the ship, Jason Hale leaned against a console, his armor battered and scorched. The adrenaline that had fueled him for the last few hours was fading, leaving a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. Beside him, Queen Arlena walked slowly through the med bay, her crystal armor scraped but intact. Her glowing eyes, usually full of commanding fire, were thoughtful now, shadowed with worry. "The weapon is destroyed," she said softly, "but the Karth will retaliate. And someone inside our empire betrayed us." Jason's jaw tightened. "I know, that's why we can't rest. Whoever tipped them off could still be feeding information, and if the Karth rebuild, they'll be stronger than before." Arlena sat beside him, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "We've survived worse. We will survive this too." He gave a small, tired smile. "You make it sound easy." A threat from within. By the time the Valor's Edge returned to GalacticPrime, the Queen had already summoned a secret council, only her most trusted advisors. The palace was quiet, the halls empty of common staff. Guards lined the corridors, eyes alert. Jason followed Arlena into a chamber where holographic maps of the outer rim flickered in midair. Vareth, the Queen's senior minister, paced the room. His normally calm demeanor was replaced with visible tension. "The leak could be anyone," he said. "A spy embedded for years waiting for the perfect moment. The Karth could have hidden agents everywhere." Jason studied the maps, his hand tracing potential Karth infiltration points. "Not everyone in your empire is loyal. We'll have to find the weak links first. That's how they knew about our mission." A young officer hesitated. "But the Karth are defeated. Their fleet's shattered. How could they plan something this sophisticated?" Jason's eyes narrowed. "You'd be surprised what a desperate enemy can do. They've had 5 years to rebuild secretly. They know patience." Arlena stepped forward, her hand on the console. "Then we act fast. We find the traitor, and we prepare for the next attack. I will not let my people die because of betrayal." Jason nodded. "I'll help you. But we move differently this time. Small teams, targeted strikes, no wasted resources." The traitor revealed. The investigation began immediately. Jason worked with Arlena's intelligence network, analyzing data from previous Karth attacks and the failed mission leak. Several days later, a breakthrough came. A mid-ranking officer, loyal in appearance but connected to the Outer Rim intelligence channels, had been feeding information to the Karth for years. "Commander Tellus," Vareth said grimly. "We never suspected him. He was close to the Queen." Arlena's face hardened. "Close to me, and yet he betrayed our people." Jason shook his head. "People like him always hide behind loyalty, but greed and fear are stronger than honor." A plan formed immediately. They would lure the traitor into revealing the extent of the Karth's new weapon before he could escape. Arlena spoke, voice firm. "We will confront him tonight." "No mistakes." Jason looked at her. "You're sure about this? You'll be in the same room as him?" Her gaze met his, unwavering. "If he's capable of betraying the Empire, he will not hesitate to betray me too." "I will face him." Jason nodded. "Then we do it together." The confrontation that night under the soft glow of crystal lanterns. The Queen and Jason met with Tellus in a secure chamber. The traitor entered confidently, bowing superficially. "Your Majesty, Captain Hale," he said. "I assume this is about the Outer Rim intelligence." Arlena didn't respond. Her eyes, glowing silver, fixed on him like a blade. "You betrayed your people." "How long?" Tellus hesitated but recovered quickly. I did what I had to do. The Karth have power and influence. I ensured survival." Jason stepped forward, fists clenched. "Survival? You sent my team into a trap. You put the Queen in danger. You call that survival?" Tellus's face darkened. "I serve the greater purpose. Your empire is fragile, human. You cannot understand." Arlena's voice cut through the air like ice. "I understand exactly. You betrayed the trust of every soldier, every citizen. That is unforgivable." With a nod from Jason, guards moved in to restrain Tellus. He resisted, striking out. But the combined strength of Zalari warriors was more than he could handle. Before he was fully restrained, Arlena leaned forward. "Tell me everything now," Tellus sneered. "The Karth, they're not finished. They are building a new fleet stronger than before. And the weapon isn't the only thing. They have a plan for your homeworlds." Jason's fists tightened. "That's what we feared." Arlena's face hardened. "Then we strike first." Preparing the final strike, Jason and Arlena spent days planning their counterattack. They assembled an elite team of Zalari soldiers and human pilots who trusted Jason implicitly. Each member trained for stealth, combat, and survival in extreme conditions. Arlena insisted on joining the mission personally. "I will not hide while my empire is at risk," she said. Jason studied the map of the Outer Rim, analyzing the Karth fleet positions and the weapon's location. "We need to hit them fast, destroy the weapon before it goes online, and escape before reinforcements arrive." Arlena nodded. "We move at night. We strike together. No mistakes." The Queen and the human prepared themselves mentally, each remembering the tunnels of SCIFI-Prime where they first met, a time of fear, trust, and survival. That memory gave them courage. The attack begins. The strike team flew through the nebula in silence. Jason piloted the lead ship, guiding them through asteroid fields and energy storms. Every sensor beeped warnings, but he ignored them. He knew the route better than anyone else. When they reached the enemy station, it loomed like a black fortress heavily guarded. Karth patrols moved in predictable patterns, exactly what Jason had studied. Arlena and her elite team descended through the side airlocks, cutting silently through guards with plasma blades. Jason coordinated the attack from the ship, providing support fire and instructions. The Karth were fierce, but Jason's unpredictability and the Queen's precision gave them the advantage. They moved like shadows through the station, avoiding detection while planting charges at key structural points. Time was running out. The hum of the Karth engine thrummed like a heartbeat in the cold metal corridors. The heart of the battle as they reached the reactor chamber. Alarms blared. The Karth had noticed their presence sooner than expected. Red lights flashed. Soldiers poured in from all directions. Jason threw himself into the fight, protecting Arlena as she set the final charges. She sliced through attackers with calm precision, each movement deadly and beautiful. One soldier managed to strike Jason from behind, throwing him against the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he fought back, grabbing the enemy and sending him flying into a control panel. Sparks flew and fire ignited across the room. The countdown timer beeped. 5 minutes. 4 minutes, almost there, Jason shouted. "Get the last charges set." Arlena nodded, her focus absolute. "We will not fail." Together, human and queen, they moved like one. The Karth soldiers fell before their combined might. The charges were planted. Escape with seconds to spare. The strike team ran through smoke-filled corridors to the docking bay. Jason covered the rear, taking a blast to his armor and rolling through the last door as the explosives detonated. The station erupted in fire and energy storms. Explosions shook the walls. Debris flew into space, turning the black fortress into a field of burning shards. The Valor's Edge launched, the strike team aboard, as the station crumbled behind them. Jason sat in the cockpit, breathing heavily, armor scorched and body aching. Arlena placed a hand on his shoulder. "You always survive," she said softly. Jason gave a weak grin. "I have you to thank for keeping me alive." They watched the destruction in silence, stars reflecting off the firestorm behind them, the calm. After the storm days later, back on Zalarian Prime, the strike team returned as heroes. The Karth fleet had suffered heavy losses, their new weapon destroyed. Peace, fragile as it was, returned to the Empire. Yet Arlena and Jason knew the galaxy was not truly safe. The Karth would rise again, and enemies could always hide among friends. As Arlena stood on the balcony, Jason beside her, she spoke softly. "You risk your life every time for me. For us." Jason shrugged, looking at the horizon. "Someone has to. Otherwise, who will?" Her eyes softened. "You're not like anyone I've ever met, Jason Hale." The stars above Zalarian Prime were calm, glittering against the deep black of space. For the first time in weeks, Queen Arlena felt a measure of peace. The Karth Dominion had been dealt a devastating blow, their secret fleet destroyed, their new weapon obliterated before it could threaten the galaxy. Yet peace, as she knew, was temporary. Shadows always lingered. The unexpected arrival. It had been 3 days since the successful strike on the Karth station. The Queen walked through the palace halls, her crystal cloak brushing against the floors, her mind restless. She thought of the humans she had met across the years, the brave and selfless souls who had aided her people, none more so than Jason Hale. Then, a soft chime echoed through the throne room. The crystal doors opened. Arlena straightened immediately, expecting another advisor, another envoy. But what she saw made her chest tighten. Jason Hale walked in. He was tired, yes, his armor scorched from the last battle. His hair fell slightly into his eyes, streaked with silver from countless journeys. But he walked with confidence, the same calm, steady demeanor she remembered from SCIFI-Prime. Her heartbeat quickened. "You again," she said softly, a faint smile breaking across her face. Jason returned the smile, walking down the center aisle of the throne room. "I promised I'd return," he said, voice calm. "I couldn't stay away forever." The council's reaction. The throne room was filled with council members and guards. They froze when Jason entered. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that—" "It can't be. The human from the legend." Arlena raised her hand. "He comes in peace." Jason stopped a few steps from the throne, bowing slightly. "I am here to aid the Queen, and I bring news." The council leaned forward, tense. Jason's reputation had grown over the years as the ghost pilot, the human who appeared in the galaxy's darkest moments and vanished just as suddenly. But even the most skeptical could sense the truth in his voice. "Talk," Arlena said. A new threat. Jason activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Maps and blinking markers filled the air. He pointed to a red zone at the far edge of the outer rim. "The Karth are not finished," he said. "Their fleets were shattered, but survivors have fled to the shadows. They've rebuilt quickly using hidden colonies and stolen Zalari technology. This is their main base now, and they're preparing a weapon far worse than before, one that could destroy entire systems at once." Gasps filled the room. Arlena's silver eyes narrowed. "Then we strike again, immediately," Jason nodded. "But this time we don't rely on fleets alone. The weapon is too powerful. We need precision, stealth, and courage, not just from soldiers but from you, Your Majesty." Arlena smiled faintly. "I am ready." Preparation for the final mission. The next hours were a whirlwind. Jason trained elite Zalari soldiers in human tactics, guerrilla maneuvers, coordinated strikes, and unconventional thinking. The soldiers adapted quickly, inspired by his calm, fearless example. Arlena trained alongside them, mastering her plasma blade, learning to move silently through enemy corridors. She was no longer just a queen. She was a warrior. The two spent a quiet moment before departure. In the palace garden beneath glowing alien flora, Arlena spoke softly. "You've saved me twice," she said. "Why do you keep risking your life?" Jason looked at her, eyes steady. "Because someone has to. Otherwise, who will? And if you die?" He shrugged. "Then the galaxy loses a human, but the story goes on. I've survived worse." She smiled, the light of the glowing plants reflecting in her silver eyes. "I'm glad you came back." Jason's smile was quiet but full of warmth. "I never truly left." Into the darkness, the Valor's Edge glided into hyperspace, heading toward the Karth base. Silence filled the ship, broken only by the hum of engines and the soft flicker of controls. Jason sat in the cockpit, eyes scanning the stars. Arlena stood behind him, cloaked in her armor, her hand lightly resting on the back of his chair. "Do you trust me?" he asked. "Always," she replied. A small grin appeared. "Good. You'll need it." The hyperspace jump ended near the hidden Karth colony, a massive structure nestled among asteroids, dark and foreboding. Jason's sensors detected dozens of patrols, automated defense drones, and energy shields. "This is worse than last time," whispered Arlena. Jason nodded. "Which is why we need to move smart. Silence and speed. No one sees us until it's too late." The infiltration using stealth pods, the Queen and her team entered the enemy station. The corridors were dark, humming with the low pulse of energy. Karth soldiers patrolled methodically, unaware of the shadows moving between them. Jason led the way, guiding the team with precise instructions. Arlena followed, plasma blade ready, cutting silently through doors and automated defenses. The teamwork between human and Zalari was seamless, trust built from years of past battles. They reached the main weapon chamber. The sight was terrifying. A massive energy cannon crackling with dark energy aimed toward a nearby system. The countdown was already active. Jason whispered, "We have 10 minutes. Everyone knows their role?" "Nods all around. Good," he said. "Then let's end this. The final battle." The team split into coordinated squads. Jason and Arlena took the central corridor toward the reactor. Karth soldiers ambushed them, but the duo moved with lethal precision. Arlena's plasma blade shimmered as it cut through defenses. Jason fired with unerring aim, using human tactics of unpredictable movements. Suddenly, the warlord Varric appeared, massive and armored, with claws sparking with energy. "You again," he roared. Jason smirked. "You didn't learn the first time, did you?" Varric attacked, forcing Jason to dodge. Arlena struck from behind, her blade slicing through the warlord's weapon arm. Sparks flew as he staggered, enraged. "Now," Jason shouted. Arlena nodded. Together they pushed Varric into the path of the automated energy cannons. The Karth warlord roared as his armor short-circuited, then collapsed. Jason activated the final charges. The timer counted down. 3, 2, 1. Explosions rocked the station. Fire and energy surged through the corridors. The team raced for the extraction pods, jumping aboard just as the chamber erupted in a brilliant storm of light. Victory. The Valor's Edge blasted out of the debris-filled nebula, escaping just in time. Behind them, the Karth weapon was destroyed, the base reduced to smoldering wreckage. Jason leaned back, breathing heavily. Arlena stood beside him, her hand brushing his shoulder. "You always survive," she said softly. "I have good teachers," he replied, glancing at her with a faint grin. For the first time in years, there was true calm. The Empire was safe. The Karth had been defeated again. A moment between worlds back on GalacticPrime. The Queen and Jason walked through the palace gardens under twin suns, setting the crystal towers alight in gold and red. "You never truly disappear, do you?" Arlena asked. Jason laughed softly. "Never for long," she turned to him. "Why do humans have this stubborn courage?" Jason shrugged. "Because we have to. We survive by fighting, by thinking, by refusing to give up. We may be small compared to the stars, but we keep moving forward." Her eyes softened. "That is why I trust you. You are more than a human. You are a hero." He looked at her quietly. "And you are more than a queen. You're a fighter. You saved your empire because you refused to bow." "I just helped a little," Arlena smiled. "You helped more than you know. I will never forget it." A new beginning, the queen returned to her throne, her people celebrating the victory. Jason prepared to leave as he always did, slipping back into the stars where he was free. Before departure, Arlena stopped him. "You will return," she said, silver eyes glowing softly. Jason nodded. "When the galaxy needs me, I will. And until then, I'll watch the stars," he said with a small grin. "And maybe wait for another adventure." The human pilot walked to his ship, turning back once to give the Queen a last look. She raised her hand in farewell, her heart full of gratitude and something else. Hope. As he launched into hyperspace, the twin suns of GalacticPrime set behind the crystal towers. The Empire had survived, humanity had proven its courage, and a legend was born. One that would inspire countless generations across the stars. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But as long as humans like Jason Hale existed, and leaders like Arlena ruled with courage, hope would endure.